to write a Go program and which are the things we have to remember when writing a program compared to the C program or Java program. What is different in Go program? These are the things we are discussing. So if the basics is clear, then you can write the program, you can write any code or any C code or Java code, you can convert into Go if the basics are clear. Okay, so let me write a simple Go program from the beginning. And I hope everybody know how to run the Go code. You can use many kind of tools like Visual Studio, or how I'm going to execute is I have just installed Go compiler in my system, and I'm in my root folder for executing the Go code. So this is how we are executing the code. Go run the program name .go. This is how we are saving the code. So I'm going to write a Go code here. At the very beginning, how we can write a Go code is use the package main. So this is very much mandatory in all Go code. Whenever you're writing a program, it should start with a package main. We can create our own package that we will study later, but now we have to understand all the programs should come under package main. So after that, what we do is, if we need to import, we need to use any functions from outside package, we can import those packages. So we can use the keyword called import. Most frequently, or in all the programs, we are using one package called FMD. So it is a formatting package. This FMD package is very much necessary because our scan function, print functions are defined in FMD package. So all the programs you may require FMD package. So import the FMD package. Sometimes, so we may use multiple packages in programs like a math package or other packages called OS package or Buffio package, time package, many kind of packages are there. So it depends on our application, we can use all those things. So here I'm using only FMD package because I need only the printing and scanning statement here. So only FMD package is required so that we can import. So this is the one way of importing. We can next import statement we can write like this: import math package. We can write like this, but usually in Go code we won't write like this. Instead, we will write like this. It's a very easy method. Just use the parenthesis and just close the parenthesis without any comma. So like this, we can import multiple packages. So this is another syntax of importing the package. So I don't want math package here, so I just remove it. I need only the FMD package. And another thing is semicolon is optional in Go programming. Semicolon is optional. It is not a mandatory that all the statements should end with a semicolon. It's optional thing. If you are putting semicolon, it's fine. If you're not putting semicolon, it's also fine. But there are some places we should not put the semicolon, or we have to be very careful. So that I will explain you. So this is the first two lines, or we can say very much necessary line. This is the first one is a mandatory line, and this is an optional line, but still it is whenever you record, you import whatever the packages you want. Okay, so next I'm going to write the main function. So as we know, all the programs, it starts its execution from the main. So it's a C language or Java language or whatever, it starts in the main only. So here we have a main function. So main function. All the functions should start with the func keyword. So func main we will write. Then the open parenthesis and the closing parenthesis in between we will write our program. Okay, so so here one very important thing we have to remember is the opening bracket of the function should start in the same line of main function. You cannot start this opening bracket in the next line. It's not possible. You have to start in the same line where the main function is. Okay, so if you're starting in the next line, definitely it will show an error. So the reason behind it, I told you the semicolon is optional in Go programming. If you're writing some statement, for example, I'm writing some statement called fmt dot, I'm going to print something. Let's say I'm printing hello, and I'm printing something. When I'm printing something, you see a semicolon is optional here. Even if I'm not putting the semicolon, automatically semicolon will be there. Automatically semicolon will be there. So here also what happens is, one second. So the semicolon is actually an optional thing here. Even if you don't put semicolon also, no problem. Okay. So here I told you the bracket should be in the next line. The reason is if the bracket is in the next line, the Go compiler will assume a semicolon here. So if there is a semicolon here, the function body cannot be completed. It will be wrong syntax. Okay, so that's the reason. Always the brackets should start in the same line. So this rule is applicable for loops, decision statements when you write. Everywhere this rule is applicable in Go. Okay, so always remember the bracket should open in the same line. And next line, okay, just let me print something. I have already shown you how to print it. So I told you the package FMGV imported to use the print function or the scan function. So all the print scan functions are defined in the package called the formatting package, which is the FMT package. So whenever we are importing a function from a package, like this is the rule, package name dot the function, always the functions start with a capital letter. Always the functions start with a capital letter. Okay. Just print also you can use. This is also correct. Or you can simply write the print statement in Go. That is also absolutely right, but that is not the right way because all the things we cannot print using the print function. It's not possible. And this is the right way of printing a statement. Use print function from FMD package. So how to import a function from a package is the package dot the function name, and the function name always starts with capital letter. So print, we know that is just a print statement, and if we want a new line character, we always use println function. Okay, either use print or println, both are fine. So semicolon is optional here. Usually we don't use semicolon because even if you don't put semicolon, by default Go will assume the semicolon. If you're putting a semicolon, one advantage is you can write the next statement in the same line. Let's say fmt dot another print statement. If I'm writing, I can write it in the same line. Okay, so this is the second line. So this is the second line. So we can write in the same line. So that is the advantage if you are using a semicolon. Usually we don't use, because by default we just press enter and write in a new line. By default the semicolon will be assuming. Okay. So this is how we are writing a basic Go program. So there are mainly four things I have discussed. One is all the programs should start with the package main and import necessary packages. So this is the way of importing the package. If you want to import one more package, let's say time package, if you are importing, you can use like this, fmt time. There is no need of any comma or semicolon in between. But I'm not importing this, I'm deleting this because I'm not using that. If you are not using something in the Go programming and if you are just declaring it, it will show error. If you are not using something, if you are just declaring it, it will show error. Okay. So if you're declaring something, if you're not using, it will show error. So that's the reason I have deleted it. Okay, so this is a basic program I have written. So let us execute this and see how it is working. So go run the program name.go. This is how we can execute it. So it will take a few seconds to execute when it's executing first time. So let's see the output, how it is. If any error, we can correct it. statements got printed. I hope it's clear. So shall I go forward? Now, how can we declare some variables in Go? So there are multiple ways of declaring variables in Go. This is the standard way of declaring a variable, like var keyword we use, the variable name, whatever we use. Let's say name is a variable name, assume name, and the type. So the type is string. So when we are talking about the types, so let me write some comments here. So when you're talking about the types of Go, the major types are integer type, float 32, or we can use float 64. These are the types of float, and string type, then the Boolean type, then the Boolean type. These are the major types. And one more additional type is there, which is called a rune, which is something similar to char, but actually it's not char, but it's similar to char. So that I will explain later. Okay. So here I have declared a variable which is called a name, which is a string type of variable, and var keyword I use, and it's got declared. Later, if you want to assign some value to it, you can assign like a name equal to let's say presidency. Like this, we can assign some values. Or so this is the one way of declaring a variable and assigning the value to it. So we have to assign some value. Otherwise, again, it may show an error because it is declared but it is not used. That is not allowed in Go. If you declare something, that must be used. If you declare something, that must be used. Otherwise, the program will not run. Okay. So there are some ways to overcome that also, that we'll see later. There is another way of declaring or initializing a variable is, for example, I need to declare an integer variable. Let's say integer variable, I call it as a number 1. Okay, so number 1 colon equal to, let's say I'm putting 45. So here in this case, what happens is the number 1 is actually a variable. Number 1 is actually a variable, and the type of the variable is integer. So how the type is integer is because the num variable which store an integer value. So the num1 will be considered as an integer variable. In this case, we have to use this particular syntax, which is colon equal to. What is actually happening is when the program running during runtime, the type will be assigning. So here the type is very clear, name is a string variable, but here the type is not that much clear. But during the compilation time, the Go compiler will assign num1 as a integer kind of variable because it stores an integer variable. Okay, so let's say I have number 2. I'm writing something called 20.3. So here in this case, can you guess what's the type of num2? Num2 is a float kind of variable. Okay, so I remember the float default is the float 64. It may show float 64 value. So same way, let me write another one, message. Another one called message, and colon equal to message is good morning. So the message I given. So here the morning is a variable of type string. It's a variable of type string. Let's say another one like yes or no, yes or no, and I given something called true. So yes or no will be a variable of type Boolean. So these are the main two techniques which we can declare a variable. So either we can go in a traditional method of declaring the variable with a type and then assigning, or we can go dynamic assignment of type. Just assign the value. What type of value you assigned, accordingly type also will be assigning during the compilation time. Okay, so here we can declare also this statement. We can write like this: the presidency can be initialized here also. That is also perfectly fine, nothing wrong in that. That is also correct only. So these are the ways we can declare the variables or assigning the values. Let's say if I'm printing name here, I'm printing the name. So So I can just directly print the name. And here, let me print all the numbers together. So num1, comma, num2, comma, num3. So like this, we can print, or so num3 is not there, sorry. So num1 and num2 we are printing. And let's say one more print statement I'm writing. I'm going to print a message. I'm going to print message, and yes or no variable also shall I print? We can print like this. So this is one method of printing, or one more way I can print. Let's say this num2 I'm going to print in one more way, like using printf. I can use the printf, fmt dot printf I can use instead of println printf. So if you're using printf, we can use the format specifier. So you may remember the format specifier which you studied in C programming or Java. My number 2 is %f. So what is that %f is num2. Num2 is my %f. So like this also we can print a statement. Okay. So let me execute these things. If there is any error, we will correct it. Yeah, spelling mistake in printf. Printf. Yeah, you can see all variables are printed. Person C, two numbers are printed. Good morning, and the boolean true, which is printed. And number 2 is %f, which is a 20.30. That also has printed. So this is also one way of printing the statement. So don't use this format specifier in println statement. It will not work out. It will not work out. So let's see what is the type of num1. So I told you num1 is assigned with 45, num2 is assigned with the 20.3. What is the type of? What is the type of it? So let's see what is the type. Okay, so it's here, instead of printing number 2, I'm going to print the type of it. So type of number 1 is %t, and num2 number 2 is again %t, which mentions type. Okay, so num1 comma num2. So type of number 1 is %t and type of number 2 is %t, and first %t is num1 and second %t is num2. So let's see what is the type of num1 and num2. You can see here the type was printed. Type of number 1 is integer, int, and type of number 2 is float 64. So I told you there is a two types of float, which is float 32 and float 64. It's just number of bits, or the memory size, how much it takes. That's it. There is nothing. There is no other relevance for 32 and 64. Just 32 and 64. There are two types of floats are there. By default, a floating point value will be float 64. Default will be float 64. And if we are not assigning something, let's say name I have not assigned, okay, or I have one more variable a, which is an integer variable. I am not assigning any value. I can use like a, say, let's say one more, I'm having variable b, which is a float 32. Okay, I'm not assigning any values here. I'm just declaring it. And finally I'm going to print it. So let me erase all these codes. I'm going to erase all this code. I'm going to print it. fmt dot print or println. I'm going to print it. Okay, so name I'm going to print a, and then b I'm going to print it. So just printing it, but I have not assigned any value. You can notice that I have just declared it. I have not assigned any value. So I have not assigned any value here. You can see what is the output. So be careful what output we got is. You see there is a space here, means name is a string we are printing. So there's no value assigned. So the default value of string is space. For integer, it is showing 0, and float also it is showing 0. Float we can say 0.0, like that also we can say, both are same only. Okay, that's what it is, printing 0. Actually, we can say something like 0.0. So for the string, it is a empty string, and for integer, it is a 0, and for boolean. Okay, so let me type here. For boolean, the default value is false. So this default value is in Go programming called as zero values. Default value in Go programming called as 0 value. So in other languages we may call it as a default value. Here we call as 0 values. Okay, so the term 0 value, if you find somewhere, remember that it is the default value of a type if you are not assigned any value. Okay, I hope it's clear. Anything else not to be clarified, you can ask me. Okay, so let us use a scan function also here. How to read an input from the keyboard. So reading a string is not easy. We need additional packages for that. So I'm just deleting this line that we will see later. So I'm just going to read fmt dot. The function is scan or scanln. Ampersand of a. A we can read, and finally we can print a and b. So let us read b also. We can read b also. So this is how we are reading values from the keyboard. Just use scanln. Let me execute it. I have to give some statement, otherwise I may not be able to identify where I have to enter. So enter values, and I'm going to save it. Just going to run it. So it is showing enter the values. So I'm entering 4 and 87. The 87 is a floating point value. So I printed it. So I got the output 4 and 87. So this is values using scanln. The second scanln is not mandatory. We can write the statement B in the same line also, no problem. That is also fine. Like this, ampersand A comma ampersand B. That is also fine. Just use the space instead of enter. That's also perfectly okay. 5 space 7.6. See, it's perfectly ready. Okay. So this is how we read the values in Go programming using scanln function. So scanln is also imported from FMD package. So FMD dot scanln S should be capital. Remember, S should be capital. Okay. So I think the variables, data types, how to write a basic program, how to print, how to read, all this we have covered. So next important things we may need in when doing the program is decision statements and loops. That also I would like to take in a short way because that is also very important, and it's very much useful also. Okay. So let me write some a decision statement first, then we will go to the loops. So when we are doing with some decision statement, let's say if else statement, as you studied in other language, nothing different here. It's everything same here. There is a small thing we have to be careful that I want to mention. That's the reason I'm going to taking this topic. So if a greater than 5, what to do? Let's say I'm going to print something. If a greater than 5, then a greater than 5, I'm going to do a plus equal to 3, it means a equal to a plus b. Sorry, it means a equal to a plus 3. I'm going to do and print a, and else if what we should do is just print a. If a is less than 5, just print a. If a is greater than 5, and a is greater than 5 and a is less than 10. Else if a is greater than 10, print a. If a is between 5 and 10, add 3 and print it. Otherwise, just print a. Then else statement. We know that what is else statement, right? Default statement. If if fail, then take the default statement. We can write n number of else if statement, right? As you already know, you are good in programming as you studied many other languages. So I don't need to explain it here. So we can write n number of else if statements here. Else if conditions we can write. So if condition, open brace, close brace, else if condition, and else if everything fails, take this. So if everything fails, what to do? If everything fails, I may print B. I may print B. If both of these fail, I may print B. Okay. So this is my code. I don't want this. Let me delete it. So this is the main function I have closed. Make sure that everything closed properly. If I have closed, and else if I have closed, else also I closed. I think there is no error in this code. I'm going to run this code, but I think I may not get the proper output. I'll tell you what is the reason. Okay, but still I want to execute it and I will explain it. Let's see how the output produces. You see, it's showing an error in line number 14, syntax error, expecting the bracket. So let's see line number 14, what happened. Line number 14, everything is fine only. The problem is, if started at the same start at the same line as I told in the main function, and else if must start at the same line where the closing of if is. You see, if statement is closing here, you have to start the else if statement in the same line. Else also you have to start in the same line where else if is. So this is how decision statements is connected in Go language. You see, if closed, else if started, else if closed, else started, everything in the same line. You see this? You see this? So don't put the brackets in the next line. It is not acceptable in Go language. So let me execute it once again. Let me check for any errors. So there's no separate code for compiling and running the code. There's only one command, which is go run program name.go. Both compilation and execution running will happen here. So that's what it's taking little time, like maybe some 2 or 3 seconds takes because of 74.3. Both compilation and running process is happening. You see, I entered the values and I got the output also. It's working fine. So remember this: if whatever the operators use, comparison operators, greater than, less than, equal to, not equal to, whatever, or ampersand is and or, you know, the or operator, or and not, everything is same. There is nothing different here. It's same as your C language or Java language what you studied, exactly same. The only difference is, you see, the brackets should open here, it should close here, and in the closing, where the closing line is, in the same line else if should start. Where the closing line is, in the same line else should start. That is the difference from other languages that you have to be careful. Is it clear? So loops. So when we're talking about loops, there is only one loop in Go language, which is the for loop. But there are 4 different ways we can write a for loop. There are 4 different ways we can write a for loop. So one method is a traditional method of C programming style method. Another one is a while style. Another one is a infinite for loop. Okay, so like this, in many ways we can write a Go programming, Go programming for loop. So let me write a normal for loop. So how you write for loop in C programming? Like this, we will write for I equal to 0, I less than 10, and I plus plus. Then opening the bracket and closing the bracket, and you are going to print something. Let's say if you are printing fmt dot println, and you're printing I value. So this is how we usually do. Okay, so this will not work out in Go language. It will show error. The main reason is you should not use this parenthesis brackets. You should not use. That is not acceptable in Go language. But remaining everything is saying absolutely fine. There is one more error is there. I will show you error. So remove this bracket. So that is one error. Don't use it in Go. Another error is, I doesn't have a type here, right? We have not assigned any type for I. So in other languages, C language, what we do is like this we do, but this is not acceptable here in Go. How we can declare variable we have already studied. Either we can declare in a traditional method like a I integer. So like this we can declare it. Or there is an easy method in Go language. You can just use colon. I colon equal to 0. So I got an integer value. So by default, I will be an integer type. Integer type of I will be integer. This is fine. This is perfectly fine. Or you can declare here like this. We can declare, but that is not required because we are using the perfectly okay. So this is the, and remember that the bracket should start in the same line. Bracket should start in the same line. Don't start in a new line. And B, I will comment B because I'm not using B in this program. Let us remove the B. Okay. A less than A. I equal to 0. I less than A. So let me run the code. Enter the value, press 10. The value is from 0 to 10. So this is traditional for loop. So nothing difficult here. Everything is as usual. Only thing is don't use the package and use the clearly presence in the same line with the for loop. So that is okay. Another style of for loop is there's no while keyword in Go language. There's no while keyword. Instead of while keyword, for loop we can use as while. For loop we can use as while. Like for the condition. While loop, how you'll write? Just write the while loop. How you'll write the while loop? While you write some condition, right? If a less than, okay, if a should be greater than 0, a should be greater than 0. Okay, 10 is greater than 0, 10 can be printed, 10 can be decremented, again 9 is greater than 0, and 9 can be printed, 9 is decremented. So like that, a while style. This program will not work because I use the while keyword. So instead of while, just remove while keyword, use for keyword, enough. So this is another style of for loop, while style of for loop in Go language. Okay. So let me execute it. Main style of Go language, Go for loop. Given, you can see the output is 10, 9, 8, 7 up to 1. It is printed. So this is another style of for loop, while style of for loop. Okay. One more thing is another kind of for loop. I think this is also clear, right? So how we are writing the while loop? In the same style. Let's say initialization, then our condition, condition, initialization, and the condition and the updation. Initialization, condition, and the updation. Same like how we write the while loop, we can write the for loop. So another style of for loop is infinite for loop. Infinite for loop. There is no condition here. We are not mentioning any condition. Infinite for loop, but it will go infinitely. Just if I'm printing, I'm entering A and printing A. This is an infinite loop. If I execute this, it will go infinitely. Infinite times that number will be printing. Infinite time that number is going to be printed. Okay, so I have to stop it somewhere, right? So let me introduce a count here. Let me introduce a count. Otherwise it will go infinitely. So introduce a count starting with the 0. Whenever it is printing, let the count is incrementing. And let me produce one condition like if I is equal to 10, break. If I equal to 10, break the loop. Let me check all the brackets. Is it proper or not? Yes, all the brackets are proper. So this is infinite loop actually. Infinite times this number is going to be printed. But I have specified a count variable, and once the count reaches 10, let it break the for loop. Otherwise, it will go infinitely. Okay, so. Enter the value. Let's say 100 or whatever you give. 100 it is printing. 10 times it is printed. So once the count reaches 10, the for loop has break. For loop is broken. Let me check my notes for the fourth style of, another important style is the for range. Yes. Okay. So the most important for loop, the most important and frequently used for loop in Go is the for range. For range. That is actually very important kind of for loop because the reason is whenever we are dealing with the string, array, slices, list, this for range is really beneficial. Okay. Assume I have an array. Assume I have an array which is an integer type of array. Let's say I'm giving some values 3, 5, 8, 10, and 15. Assume I have an array which is an integer type of array. If I want to print these values, the easy method is this is a syntax of for range. For index comma value equal to range keyword, then the sequence open bracket close bracket. It will take index and value both. So the sequence can be an array, a slice, a string also can be a sequence because string is a sequence of characters, right? String is a sequence of characters. Array is a sequence of numbers or elements. Slice is also a sequence. So any sequence it can be. Okay, so in every iteration it will take both index and value. So here index of 3 is 0, value is 3. Index 1 value is 5. Index 2 value 8. Index 3 value 10. Index 15 value index 4 value 15. So index and value. Every iteration, for every loop iteration, it will take both index and value. Okay, so here I'm going to write for I comma value range keyword. My sequence is A. My sequence is an array which is A, and open bracket and close bracket. Let's see, this bracket is closed, this bracket is main function, so this bracket is not needed. Okay, so let me print it. Let's say print. Initially, I'm just printing only. I'm going to just print only. I'm going to print both I and V. Both I am going V am going to print because I cannot avoid I because it will show error. Sorry, I have not put the bracket here. So the problem is array always should mention the size. So here I'm mentioning the size is 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements only, but I mentioned the size 6. That is a very much mandatory in array. Otherwise, it will not consider as array. If you are not mentioning the size, it will consider as a slice. Okay, that is also fine. That is another data type. You see, I got the output. Index is 0, value 3, index 1, value 5, index value, index value, index value. The last index is 5 because size of array is 6, so index is 0 to 5, and the last element is not there, so by default integer value 0 it will come because array the size is mandatory. If you are not mentioning the size, it will be slice. So that is a different type, different composite type it is. So this is how for range is working. So now most of the time we don't want this index. Okay, so if I'm removing this index, that is not acceptable for Go programming. I told you we cannot declare anything in Go without using it. It will not work. It will show error. We cannot declare anything without using it. You see, it is showing I declared but not used. I declared but not used. So in Go programming, assume if you have a variable number which is of integer type, but if you didn't use it, if you are not using in the program, to ignore this variable, but you want this variable in future, assume you want this variable in future, so you don't want to delete it, but you are not using it. If you are not using it, to ignore this value, there is a mechanism in Go which is called underscore equal to now. This is the mechanism, underscore. So if you are assigning a variable to the underscore, it means ignore this value. I'm not using this value. I'm not using this variable. Just ignore it. That is the meaning. So same thing applicable here. Instead of I, we can just use underscore. So underscore comma. So like this, we can solve this problem. Okay. So most of the time we need only values. We may not be needed index. So to ignore that index, we can use this technique. Just use underscore so that the program will work perfectly. You see the program is working perfectly. 3, 5, 8, 10, 15, 0, I got the output. Two variables. Here also I use ignore. Here also I use ignore. Num also I have not used. So I ignored it using the underscore key. So this is the fourth type of for loop. So there are 4 types of for loop in Go programming. C style. In C style, what we have to remember is don't use the brackets. Okay, you see the example here. Don't use any brackets. Just write the condition, initialization condition, and updation statements. Then the next one is the condition only for loop, which is exactly like your while loop. How your while loop working? Same thing. There's no difference. Only thing is don't use while keyword. Instead of while keyword, you use for keyword. That's it. Next, infinite for loop. There's no condition, no initialization, nothing. Just a for keyword and the open bracket and close bracket. Write your statements. It will go infinitely. Always make sure that there is a break statement to break your loop. Otherwise, it will go infinitely. Then the most important thing is a for range. For range is very, very important because we have a lot of sequences in Go language. Array, string is a sequence, array is a sequence, map is a sequence, slice is a sequence. There are many sequences in our Go programming. So whenever we are dealing with the sequences, we need the for range. So how the for range is working is, let me explain how it's working. In the first iteration, v value will be 3. The second iteration, v value will be 5. The third iteration, v value will be 8. The fourth iteration, v value will be 10. Like this, it is working. Assume I have a string here. Instead of array, I just comment this array. Assume I have a string here. For example, name string equal to, I'm going to use the string presidency. So string is also a sequence. String is also a character sequence. So let's see, I'm writing here for loop with range sequence. What is sequence? String is the sequence. In the string, what are the elements in a string? Characters are the elements, like P, R, E, S. Characters are the elements here. So there is one more problem here. I don't like to mention now, but we will may discuss in the upcoming classes, because there is a concept of runes in string, because there is nothing called character in string. 8 and 9. Okay, sorry, I have not mentioned any type for name. If you are not mentioning any type, you have to use colon equal to. Okay, if you are not mentioning the type, always use colon equal to. Colon equal to means dynamically assign the type. We don't know, we may not be knowing, sometimes we may not be knowing what is the type. So let us dynamically assign it. You see, the output which I got is correct only. Don't think that it is wrong. Actual output is PRESI should be the output. You see, this is the ASCII values. You may remember ASCII value of P is 112. ASCII value of R is the 114. ASCII value of E is the 101. ASCII value of S is the 115. Okay, all these are the ASCII values. Actually, what the output here is PRESIN. So in first iteration P, second iteration V will be R, third iteration V will be E, fourth iteration V will be S. Like that, it is actually printing. So why this is coming in the ASCII values is in Go language, a character is considered as a rune. There is no character data type in Go, but a single character, whatever the character is, it can be a special symbol, or it can be a number, whatever in single quotes is considered as rune. Rune is a data type of integer 32. Rune is an integer 32 type. Rune is an integer 32 type. Rune represented with a single quotes. So now when we are taking P in V and printing P, the P is considered as a rune. So it will print an integer value, that is its ASCII value. That is it's a ASCII value. Okay, so what I mentioned is for range is applicable for iterating any kind of sequences, So